Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in. So I've got a couple of things to do today. So first one is what I normally do for this camera is I run it off my small inverter that I've got. As you can see up there, that's just a small inverter that I've got running up there, running off this lead acid battery down here. So this is just the inverter that runs it. So this is the charger that I'm just running. So what I want to do is convert it so that it's going to run straight off the battery. So it seems a bit silly to run the battery through an inverter, then back through another converter to make the charger. So what I bought is this little thing. So basically it's just obviously going to go directly into 12 volts. So it's just going to screw here. So then I can just plug the cables directly into that bit. I think I've got one or two spare leads running off this little switch bank here. Actually, I think I've got that one spare. That one's for the lights, that one's for the cigarette lighter around the side here. This one's spare, and this one's for the entry-exit lights. So that's what we'll do first. So first thing I've got to do is just take this panel off. Alright, here's the panel, and of course one of the screws fell out when I was undoing it, and I don't know where it went, so I'll have to find another one. So what I'm going to do is just drill another hole in through here, so that I can run the cable in, because obviously it's going to sit here, cable just come in here, just nice and short. And the other thing I'm going to do is this little terminal block here that I've got all my negatives going to annoys me because of this bit of wire hanging down, so I'm just going to see if I can figure out a different place to put that. I might just move it further up, so that it's just out of the way a little bit. Alright, so as you can see, that's the hole for the cigarette lighter that I've got. So that just goes in there. That's not what I'm using, I'm just showing you that because I can. And there you go. And so you can see that's now powder. So we'll get to, so this is going to be used for those that remember the fan video where I made this fan bank. That's the second part of today's activities. So that's why that's sitting here. So as I said, what I'm going to do is drill a hole through here first. So I'm just making sure that I don't get too close to all the cabling that I've got there for when I drill a hole. And yeah, the hole's probably bigger than it needs to be, but that's okay. Alright, I'll just take this terminal block off. Alright, so I think all I'm going to do is just move it up a bit, just to make it look neater. And that's just being a bit pedantic on it, because the cable's hanging down. Doesn't look very nice, and it gets a bit annoying after a while. Alright, one new hole. A screw going in, maybe, somewhere. There we go. That just neatens it up a little bit because now I haven't got this bit hanging down there. Okay, so I'm going to run a little bit of length on these cables just in case I need to take this off again as it's sitting there. So I've got some extra cable length to let this hang rather than it being too tight for me to actually do anything with. Alright, back to the bench. Yeah, for some reason I do have red and black heat shrink. I found the black, but I can't find the red. So I'm just going to go with blue for both. So don't yell at me in the comments. can solder these up now. So of course I committed the ultimate sin where I'd been doing a whole heap of things off camera and I'd made an absolute mess in the workshop. So then I decided that before I start filming I should clean it up. So then I cleaned everything up and I couldn't find the solder. Anyway, how many people have had that experience? Alright, time for the heat shrink. Alright, so I underestimated the size of the wire that I've used. Well, probably just actually the way I've soldered it rather than anything else. So, just to really upset people, I'm going with green this time. So, take 2 for heat shrink. Alright, there's one. Alright, so now I have this sitting here ready to go. Just going to feed the wires through that hole there. So I'm going to match it so that it's got the same height as this one. So it's basically just sitting here. So that's probably pretty good for length. I'll just have to clean it up a little bit once I get it in there and tidy some of the wiring up. Alright, so the negative will just go into the terminal block and the positive will get soldered onto the fuse on the panel. I might just roll these wires together so that they can less chance of them coming apart and making a mess everywhere. Wind them up. Alright, just tin this wire up. Put some fresh solder on the fuse holder here. I've still got a fuse in it, I didn't check that. Alright, now I'll put the cable on here. See if I can get this cable into the hole in the terminal block without having to take the terminal block back off again. Not sure I like my chances. Alright, there we go. Oops. I just can't hold it and screw it up at the same time. There we go, maybe. There we go. Nicely done. Dropped the screwdriver and didn't manage to drop it in the fireplace. So, next thing to do is to put it back. Alright, since I lost the other screw that was in there when I was taking it out, I figured maybe I could just put that in there using the same screw. Screw hole rather. Now it's going to drill a small pilot hole. My luck being that if I don't, then I will split the wood when I try and put it in. Plenty of times where I've drilled a pilot hole and still split the wood. There we go. So now, if I unplug that, I can see that's now on telling me it's gone back to battery. And then if I plug it into here, right, that's working okay. Doesn't seem like this is actually putting out enough power to actually charge this though. Oh no, there it goes. Don't know why that took so long. Never mind. Okay, so next job is to finish this fan off. I'll leave a link down below for those that haven't seen it, want to see it. So this is just a fan, as I said in that video, that will push some air past my little fireplace when it's cold. It's not cold at the moment. Well, actually it is today. During the winter when I'm working in here and it gets a bit cold, I've got a little fireplace I'm going to run. So I just need something to push a little bit of extra heat around. So I made this fan, and I've got a cigarette lighter connector, so I'm just going to use that as the main power source for it. So all I'm going to do in this short piece is just hook these wires up and make sure that it works. Alright, so we'll just strip some of this wire back and do some soldering again. Better find out which cable is which on this too, just to be sure. Because otherwise that'll end up in... I don't think it'll be smoke, but okay. So there's a wire with a stripe on it. That is the negative. Alright, time for more soldering. Again, can't find the colours, got colours all mixed up. It's going to be covered in tape anyway once I finish it, so I'm not too concerned about what colour actual heat shrink I use. Soldering with the wire next to the heat shrink next to the wire is a bit of a balancing act of getting enough heat in there and getting it soldered properly and not shrinking the heat shrink before you want it to. And it helps to actually put the heat shrink on first. Glad I found that before I soldered it. It's not what I normally do. Alright, just let those cool down. Do the other two up here. Alright, so before I finalise all the connections and stuff, I'm just going to plug this in, turn it on, make sure nothing's going to short together, and just make sure it's going to work. Alright, as you can see, they're quite happily pulsing away there. So now I can put the heat shrink on. So of course this heat shrink has decided to shrink a bit on me, so I just have to cut that off so that I can do the rest of it. I've got to do the same on the positive one. I'll just drag this one over as well. These have got a bit of a kink in them, so I'll just straighten them out a little bit. There's one. Man, this one's not very happy. I've made a bit of a mess of this one. A little bit too much solar. There we go. Right. Alright, since I've got black wire, I'm going to use black tape just to hold it all together. Alright, I'll just hook it up in the spot and make sure it works. Alright, here it is. It's just going to sit, as I said, in there. Maybe the right way around. Alright, so we'll just pop this in here. And I think there's a hole back here somewhere. Alright, as you can see, flick it on, light comes on, and the fans are quite happily pushing some air around down there. You can see the things are flapping in the breeze there, all the spider webs. So all it's going to do is just push a little bit of air through here, which will just get it more into the workshop. So it doesn't have to be anything big. Alright, well that'll do it for this video. Just a couple of little short, quick upgrades for the place. Got a few other things in the works, so don't forget to give it a like. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and have a chat to me in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.